What if one of NASCAR's most respected stars wasn't only keeping secrets on the racetrack, but hiding them inside his own home? In the wake of Greg Biffle's death, a shocking legal fight is being dragged back into the spotlight, one that his former mother-in-law says revealed a side of him fans were never meant to see. Hidden surveillance, explosive claims, and a jury ruling that flipped everything upside down. Tonight, we're digging into the scandal that refused to stay buried, and why the truth behind it is far more unsettling than anyone imagined. Greg Biffle's name is carved into NASCAR history as a relentless competitor, a Truck Series champion, and one of the most recognizable drivers of the 2000s. For years, fans saw speed, toughness, and a reputation built on the racetrack. But beyond the cameras and the checkered flags, a very different story was unfolding, not through interviews or documentaries, but through court filings, sworn statements, and a jury verdict that stunned even veteran legal experts. After Biffle's passing, a civil case that once disappeared from the headlines has now resurfaced, raising disturbing questions about power, privacy, and betrayal inside a marriage that crumbled under allegations for darker than simple infidelity. His ex-wife, Nicole Lenders, along with her mother, accused Biffle of secretly installing security cameras inside their home, a claim that was examined in court, not whispered as gossip. Biffle did not deny putting the cameras in place, but said he did it because he believed members of the household staff were stealing from him. The jury didn't buy the explanation. In this video, we're breaking down what was alleged, what was proven, what Biffle admitted under oath, and why his ex-mother-in-law's role in bringing this case forward has become such a major topic. After his death, these are online rumors. These are documented legal findings that reveal a far more complicated version of the man many thought they knew. And as we move deeper into this story, one question stands above all others. Was this really about protection or about control? Because once you hear what came out in court, everything the public believed starts to change. From the outside, Greg Biffle's life appeared structured, controlled, and successful. NASCAR garages run on routine, precision, and trust, and his career reflected that image. But according to sworn testimony and court records, the marriage between Biffle and his then-wife Nicole Lenders was quietly coming apart long before the case ever reached a jury. By the mid-2000s, their relationship had become strained by growing distrust, accusations of cheating from both sides, and rising tension inside the home they once shared. Friends and people close to them later described a marriage filled more with suspicion than partnership, one where conflicts didn't just stay in conversations, but spilled into actions that would eventually land in a courtroom. This wasn't a sudden breakdown. Legal documents show a slow collapse of trust, with both sides accusing the other of lies and betrayal. Lenders later claimed that the atmosphere inside the house became emotionally uncomfortable and charged, especially as arguments over money, personal boundaries, and loyalty intensified. Biffle, on the other hand, said he felt increasingly uneasy about what was happening when he wasn't there, particularly because his racing and business schedule kept him traveling so often. That growing suspicion, according to Biffle's own statements, became the justification for the decision that would ultimately define the entire case, the decision to install security cameras inside the home. Biffle insisted the cameras were meant to keep an eye on household employees, claiming he believed things were being taken. But Lenders and her mother saw it as something very different. They claimed the cameras were concealed, never disclosed, and positioned in spaces where privacy should have been absolute, crossing a boundary no marital dispute could ever excuse. What matters most here is this: Biffle never denied putting the cameras in. The argument was never about whether they existed. It was about their purpose, their placement, and who knew they were there. As the marriage deteriorated and separation became unavoidable, those cameras shifted from a private source of tension into the core of a civil lawsuit. one that put Biffle's personal judgment under legal examination and ultimately forced a jury to decide whether this was about security or about intrusion. Once the lawsuit was filed, something unfolded that Biffle likely never saw coming. His former mother-in-law stepped forward, refusing to remain silent, and helped bring details into the open that permanently changed how the case was viewed. From the moment she entered the picture, this was no longer just a divorce conflict. It became a public reckoning. What began as a private marital collapse suddenly turned into a full-scale legal battle when Nicole Launders and her mother officially filed a civil lawsuit against Greg Biffle. This wasn't gossip, a tabloid story, or a leaked rumor. It was a formal legal complaint accusing him of invasion of privacy, supported by specific locations, timelines, and sworn statements that would later be reviewed in open court, according to court records later reported by ESPN. Launders and her mother accused Biffle of secretly installing surveillance cameras inside their shared home without their knowledge or permission. These were not outdoor security cameras or visible systems designed to deter intruders. The lawsuit alleged they were placed inside the residence, in areas where both legal and ethical standards demand privacy, a crucial point that would later weigh heavily on the jury's ruling. Biffle did not deny setting up the cameras. Instead, his defense focused on motive. He said the system was installed because he believed household employees were stealing while he was away. With his schedule split between racing and business travel, Biffle argued he was protecting his property, not spying on his wife or her family. But attorneys for Launders and her mother pushed back hard. They questioned why the cameras were hidden, why there was no clear disclosure, and why people living in the house, including Launders' mother, allegedly had no idea they were being recorded. The lawsuit argued that even if theft was a concern, it did not justify secret monitoring inside private living areas. As the case progressed, the focus shifted away from marital drama and toward legal boundaries. Jurors reviewed evidence, showing where the cameras were placed, who could access the footage, and whether anyone had ever given consent. The discussions inside the courtroom weren't emotional. They were technical, detailed, and grounded in privacy law. And that's what made the 2018 verdict so devastating. After listening to arguments from both sides, the jury ruled against Greg Biffle, finding him responsible for invading privacy. The verdict ordered Biffle to pay $250,000 in damages to Nicole Launders, a clear message that the jury did not accept his justification under the law. What made the ruling even more powerful was the testimony and presence of Launders' mother, which made it clear this was about more than just a dispute between husband and wife. Her involvement emphasized that more than one person felt violated by the surveillance, expanding the harm far beyond a broken marriage. For Biffle, the decision represented a rare and deeply personal loss. This wasn't a defeat on the racetrack or a business disagreement. It was a judgment about what he did inside his own home. And while the case eventually slipped out of the daily news cycle, the legal record never disappeared. Now, after his death, that record is being examined again, not for shock value, but to understand how someone so controlled and disciplined in public could cross such a serious boundary in private. What makes it even more unsettling is that the verdict didn't cover everything that was alleged inside the household. Behind the privacy lawsuit were murmurs of infidelity, control, and emotional tension that never fully played out in court. As damaging as the surveillance case was, it did not exist in isolation. Underneath the legal arguments and jury instructions was a deeper layer of marital turmoil, fueled by accusations of cheating, emotional collapse, and an escalating struggle over control inside the relationship. While these issues weren't what the jury was asked to rule on, they appeared again and again in court filings and depositions, helping explain how the situation reached such an explosive point. According to documents reviewed by media outlets, both Greg Biffle and Nicole Launders accused each other of being unfaithful during the later stages of their marriage. Those claims intensified an already toxic environment of distrust and suspicion. What once were disagreements over privacy and lifestyle turned into something far more volatile, a relationship where neither side believed the other was telling the truth. Lunder's legal team argued that the hidden cameras could not be separated from this atmosphere of mistrust. They claimed the surveillance was not just about stolen property, but about watching behavior, reinforcing a power imbalance that grew as the marriage fell apart. From their view, the cameras represented control, not protection. Biffle's defense forcefully rejected that narrative. He insisted that any infidelity issues had nothing to do with the cameras and that the surveillance system served only one purpose: protecting his assets. His lawyers argued that personal relationship problems were being unfairly used to reinterpret a security decision through emotion rather than fact. But juries don't just weigh explanations, they judge credibility. Once again, Lunder's mother played a key role. Her testimony supported the claim that the surveillance went beyond a spouse, stating that she had been unknowingly recorded inside a private home. That allegation strengthened the argument that the situation crossed a legal and moral line, regardless of marital conflict. What makes this part of the story so significant is what was never formally ruled on. The jury focused strictly on invasion of privacy, not adultery, not emotional abuse, not motive, yet the surrounding testimony revealed a household in crisis, where trust had completely collapsed and drastic actions replaced communication. In many ways, the cheating allegations formed the unspoken backdrop of the entire trial. They helped explain why tensions were so high, why every explanation was met with skepticism, and why the jury may have been less willing to take Biffle's justification at face value. When trust breaks down, intent becomes harder to establish, and that reality often influences verdicts more than strict legal definitions alone. After the ruling, both sides mostly fell silent. There was no extended media tour, no dramatic confessional. Officially, the case closed on paper, but not in public memory, because once legal records exist, they never truly disappear. They linger. And now, following Greg Biffle's death, those records are being examined, again with fresh eyes, especially as attention turns to who helped bring the story into the open and why his former mother-in-law's role continues to spark discussion long after the courtroom went dark. When the jury handed down its verdict in 2018, Greg Biffle did not step in front of cameras. There was no apology tour, no emotional statement to fans, and no attempt to spin the ruling in the court of public opinion. Instead, Biffle did what many high-profile figures do after a damaging civil judgment. He went silent. And over time, that silence allowed the case to slowly fade from major headlines, even though the legal record remained unchanged. Behind the scenes, however, the verdict carried consequences far beyond the $250,000 award. In NASCAR culture, reputation can matter just as much as performance. Trust, discipline, and character are vital currencies in a sport driven by sponsorships and image. And although Biffle's racing career was already winding down, this lawsuit became a permanent footnote, one that resurfaced whenever his name was mentioned outside of lap times and trophies. What's important to remember is that civil verdicts don't require criminal intent. The jury wasn't asked whether Biffle was a bad person. They were asked whether his actions violated privacy law, and by answering yes, they created a legal truth that could never be undone, regardless of motive, regardless of personal explanations. For years, the story remained dormant, but death has a way of reopening chapters people think are closed. After Biffle's passing, online conversations shifted. Tributes flooded in celebrating his racing legacy, but almost immediately, others began revisiting unresolved controversies. And that's when focus returned to the lawsuit, particularly to the role of his ex-mother in law. And like many relatives who fade into the background after legal battles end, she played a key role in making sure the case moved forward and was taken seriously from the start. Her involvement changed the narrative This was no longer just a heated marital dispute. It became about multiple people living in a home, some with no marital ties at all, claiming their privacy had been violated. That distinction mattered then, and it matters even more now. As social media rediscovered the case, reactions split sharply. Some fans defended Biffle, pointing to his explanation and the absence of criminal charges. Others said the jury's verdict spoke for itself, that privacy is a line you don't cross, no matter who you are. What reignited the debate wasn't new evidence. It was timing. Death removes a person's ability to respond, explain, or reframe their actions. And when someone can no longer speak, the record becomes their voice. Now, as this case resurfaces, the question isn't whether Biffle can defend himself. It's whether the public can separate legacy from accountability. Can someone be a champion on the track and deeply flawed at home? Can admiration exist alongside uncomfortable truths? Because the most disturbing reality is this: nothing in the court record was ever hidden. Every detail was always there, waiting to be seen. Greg Biffle's story now lives into parallel worlds, and neither one can erase the other. On one side stands the decorated NASCAR driver, a Truck Series champion, a relentless competitor whose name will forever be connected to some of the most intense years in modern stock car racing. On the other side sits her documented civil lawsuit that revealed deeply troubling choices made far from the track, inside a private home where trust had already broken down. What makes this story so difficult and so divisive is that it doesn't rely on rumors, speculation, or internet gossip. It rests on court filings, sworn testimony, and a jury's verdict. In 2018, a group of everyday citizens listened to both sides, examined the evidence, and concluded that Greg Biffle violated privacy law. That ruling wasn't emotional. It was legal, and it remains permanently on the record. The resurfacing of this case after his death isn't about destroying a legacy. It's about facing the complete truth of a public figure's life. The role of his former mother-in-law is a reminder that power dynamics matter, that privacy matters, and that decisions made in moments of fear or control can carry consequences long after relationships end. Her involvement ensured the case wasn't brushed aside as just another messy divorce. It forced accountability into a space where silence might have otherwise taken over. This story challenges all of us as viewers and fans. Can two truths exist at once? Can we recognize Greg Biffle's impact on NASCAR while also acknowledging that a jury ruled his actions crossed a serious legal boundary? Legacy is rarely simple, and history doesn't belong only to heroes. It belongs to facts. What remains most unsettling is that this case didn't erupt into scandal while Biffle was alive. It quietly sat in legal archives, waiting. Death didn't create the controversy, it only removed the ability to respond. And when that happens, the record speaks louder than memory. This isn't a story about cancellation. It's a story about boundaries, about privacy, about how personal decisions can collide with public image in ways that never fully disappear. And it's a reminder that even the most disciplined public figures can unravel behind closed doors. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Greg Biffle's legacy should be judged only by his racing career? Or does accountability still matter after death? Share your thoughts in the comments. Keep the conversation respectful. And if you appreciate deep dives like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what we uncover next. Because the stories that matter most are often the ones people tried hardest to keep quiet.